Frontier Town, the saga of the Roaring West. Frontier Town. El Paso, Cheyenne, Calgary, Tombstone. Frontier Town. Here is the adventurous story of the early West, the tamed and the untamed, from the Pecos to Powder River, Dodge City to Poker Flat. These are the towns they fought to live in and lived to fight for, teeming crucibles of pioneer freedom. Frontier Town!
Howdy, I'm Chad Remington, and in Dos Rios, the frontier town I live in, I'm known as a cowtown lawyer. But frankly, even with the People's Court and the Miners' Court, there really isn't enough law business to dignify me with the title of attorney. And some folks say I'm more of a troubleshooter, and I guess probably they're right at that. It was only a short time ago that I thought I'd get away from Dos Rios, my office, the little ranch my dad left me, and trouble. So, gathering up Cherokee O'Bannon, who used to peddle patent medicine but now rents livery horses in Dos Rios, we set out for Spread Eagle Lake, a deep, cold, blue lake in the distant mountains, where I had heard the green hunchback, the steelhead, and the rainbow ran up to 10 pounds. To get to Spread Eagle, we cut through the Rockies and came down on a pass through which the railroad was building.
Counselor, you sure you want to go through with this fishing trip?
You bet I'm sure, Cherokee. Why?
Well, I was just thinking. Fish live in water. If there's one thing I abominate, it's that aqueous fluid chemically known as H2O. Unless it's been frozen to ice and put into a drink.
Well, Mr. O'Bannon, then maybe this little fishing expedition will change your mode of living.
Well, that's what I was afraid of. Not meaning to change the subject, but have you heard anything about the railroad building here through the gorge?
I think I heard some talk about it. It's going to be a great thing for the West, this network of rails. It'll probably mean the eventual end of the frontier.
Say, look, Chad, isn't that a work train stopped down there with all the track layers working around it?
It sure is. What's more, just approaching the work train, down beyond that bend, is an engine with one flat car, and it's going like 60.
Silly blue blazes, if that engine doesn't slow down, and soon there's going to be one heck of a smash-up.
Doggone it, what's the matter with the man in the locomotive cab? Why doesn't he slow down? Doesn't he see the work train with all the workmen around it?
Why, that engineer must be blind. Look, he's just starting to slow down now.
And now, I'm afraid, is about 1 minute too late. That fool, he's driving right into a smash-up. I don't believe I ever felt so helpless before. There was nothing Cherokee or I could do to stop the engine. And when it plowed into the back end of the work train, it scattered men in a circle 200 yards wide. Cherokee and I lost no time getting down there. And when we did, we found the division boss who'd been riding the flat car surrounded by about 50 of the angriest men we'd ever seen.
You fools! You think we deliberately drove that engine into the work train?
It don't make no difference just why you did it, Clooney. You killed 2 men, and one was me brother. You're nothing but a foul, low-down murderer.
Don't you go calling me no murderer.
It's a lucky thing there weren't more men killed. Speed. That's all you and that railroad ever think of. Well, we got some speed for you, Clooney. The speediest trip you ever made. To a graveyard.
All right, go on. Gun me down. Fine chance I'd stand against 50 of you.
I don't need no gun for a snake the likes of you, Clooney.
All right, now hold it, you two. Cut it out.
Let me go! Let me go! Take your hands off of me! There!
Now that's enough. All right, now cut it out. Yes. Thanks. Thanks, mister. I didn't stand much of a chance with a mob on my neck.
Who's he coming in here?
All right, the lot of you. I don't know who's right in this argument, but I'm not going to stand by and see 50 men go after one.
Get out of my way, you
Chad,
What's...
Now, if there are any of the rest of you who are interested in target practice, I'm right here to oblige.
Well, mister, you're sure a handy man to have around. Just handy enough so that I think this railroad I work for might have an awful good job for a gent like you.
Well, thanks, but we're sort of on a vacation, heading up towards Spread Eagle Lake.
Well, I'm bound up that way myself, so if you'd like to put your horse on that flat car, I'd be glad to give you a lift. On the way, maybe we could do a little talking.
Now, mind you, I'm not taking sides in this issue. From what we saw, the men were right. This engine was going much too fast.
Sure, but is it the railroad's fault if the engineer was daydreaming? Besides, if you saw it and figured there'd be a crash, that track-laying crew saw it too and should have gotten out of the way.
Well, you may be right about that, Clooney. But those men would never agree with you. Wouldn't surprise me a bit if, in the mood they're in, they don't try to get even with the railroad.
Huh. If they do, there'll be a lot more of them killed. But legally. We still got a few laws around here, and they won't do those mobs any good. And that's where I figured maybe you could help.
We could help? How?
After all, you're both natives out here. It shouldn't be any trouble at all for you to win their confidence and try to talk them out of destroying any railroad property.
After the row I had with that Pat McCarthy today, he could have taken us apart right along with your roadbed the way he feels.
Look, you see that little bunch of buildings up ahead there? Yeah. That's the junction. Now, once we get there, you come in and talk to our general manager, Mr. Sherwood, before you make up your mind one way or the other. Don't you see, Sherwood? If O'Bannon and Remington would take the jobs and could worm their way in with the work crew, well, that'd be just like having a spy in their camp. We'd know everything that was going on.
Well, I'm not sure about that, Clooney, but, okay, have them come in.
Right. Come on in, fellas. Mr. Sherwood will see you now.
Come on in, boys, and let's talk about this job.
Now, believe me, Mr. Sherwood, Cherokee and I aren't looking for jobs.
Yeah, but this is different. It's not a permanent job, and what's more, by helping the railroad complete its work, you'll be helping everyone around here. What we want is to stop the wanton waste of material and lives.
In other words, you want a troubleshooter so you won't have any shooting trouble.
Remington, you hit the nail right on the head.
Well, all I can say is I hope we don't end up hitting it right on the thumb.
I wish you'd stop looking so glum, Cherokee. We can make enough in a few weeks on this job to pay for 2 months' vacation. Then you can hunt and fish to your heart's content.
As far as I'm concerned, working for the railroad, we're hunting and fishing right now. Fishing for information and hunting for trouble.
Well, you may be right at that. And if the first piece of information we got is right, that hot-headed Irishman, Pat McCarthy, lives just across this next hill in one of those little shacks. And if we can talk some sense into him, since it was his brother who was killed in that crack-up, half the battle should be won.
I'm not calling you an optimist, but if you think that Irishman is going to forgive and forget so soon, you simply don't understand.
Now, what the dickens?
Better hold it, gentlemen. Because the only way the next shot's going past you is after it goes clean through you.
By the Ides of March, Chad, it's a red-headed girl.
Not that your lives are so much. But if you set any value on them, then get out of here before
Just a minute, young lady. I came up here to see a man by the name of Pat McCarthy on business.
The only business he'd have with you two is to punch holes through you where I leave off.
Who in blazes do you think you are?
The name's McCarthy, too. Sharon McCarthy. It was my father who was killed by the railroad.
Well, Miss McCarthy, I don't know if your Uncle Pat's at home or not, but I'm waiting here until I see him.
If you take just one step...
I don't know if you're bluffing or not, but there's only one way I can find out.
That's it, Chad. Wrestle that gun away from her.
If I ever get this barrel up to your...
Parading pink elephants. That 30-30 slug went right through the brim of my Stetson.
Here, Cherokee, just for that, you can hold a rifle.
Why don't you leave us alone?
You just had a pretty good illustration of why I don't. Now, if everybody who's been working for the railroad has your kind of temper, the road wouldn't have enough flat cars to hold all the coffins to get them out of here.
She's as much of a cantankerous catamount as her uncle.
All right, Sharon. I'll take care of these two spalpeens myself.
Oh, howdy, McCarthy.
Don't you go howdying me. I got my own idea of a man who'd do what you did to a girl. And I got a good notion to give you what I should have given you this morning.
Well, since you seem bound and determined to get it out of your system, why don't you try it?
And don't think I won't fight it. Think it's a mistake. Use it.
All right, now take it easy, McCarthy. Sure. I don't want to hurt you.
Why, you...
Billy Blue Blazes, Chad. The old Tad knocked you down.
It looks like we're both down.
Young fella, wherever did you get a wallet like that?
I got his gun, Uncle Pat. I'll cover him.
Here, Sharon, for shame. Put that gun down. Now, we don't shoot anybody around here unless they stand on their own 2 feet.
Well, that sounds fair enough. So how about us both getting up?
Phew. My jaw hasn't been hit that hard since the day I left Dublin.
Well, I don't know how long that's been, McCarthy, but my mouth feels as if I'd been kicked by a mule. Of course, if you aren't a mule or as stubborn, I've still got a few things I'd like to talk over with you.
Well, now, I don't promise to do any more than listen. But if you try to pull anything on me, by the Blarney Stone, I'll fill your hide so full of holes that when they lower you into your coffin, you'll weave like an accordion. Now, come on.
We'll return to the second act of Trouble Rides the Rails, our exciting frontier town adventure, in just a few moments. And now, Frontier Town.
I don't know if you've ever tried to convince a hard-headed Irishman of anything, but maybe having an O'Bannon with me helped. Because even though it was against his better judgment and that of his nieces, Sharon, Pat McCarthy finally agreed to convince his fellow workers not to tear the new railroad apart. I can't say that I blame Sharon particularly, because her father had been killed. But before Cherokee and I could really blame anybody, a wave of criminal attacks and depredations broke out that just about blasted the railroad out of the Rockies.
There she comes, boys. That's the mail flyer. Come on now, let's get her.
Never mind the messenger. It's blood that express car state.
Watch it now, men. Once that train hits the bridge, there's going to be an awful crash.
Now, wait a minute, Mr. Sherwood. Before you go flying off the handle, Chad and I are telling you the truth.
And I'm telling you both the truth. This railroad is paying you to stop trouble. And almost from the day you started, trains have been held up, express and mail shipments stolen.
If you'd only give me a chance, Mr. Sherwood, and listen instead
Chance my eye. I recommended you to Mr. Sherwood and put you on the payroll. Now things are worse than they were before.
If your only interest is in the payroll, you can forget about it.
Oh, so that's the kind of men you are. As soon as the going gets tough, you quit.
If you were about 20 years younger, Sherwood, I'd knock those words back down your throat right along with your teeth. But I'm keeping this job as long as you'll let me. And I don't want to be paid for it either.
Your hinky-dink little railroad probably needs the money worse now than we do.
Well, confound it, we're not getting any place losing our tempers.
No, we're certainly not. Not only have you lost your temper, but apparently you've lost your judgment.
You mean judgment?
Cherokee and I have been with McCarthy and the rest of that track-laying crew ever since you turned the job over to us. And I take my solemn oath that none of them had anything to do with looting or damaging your trains.
Well, solemn oath or not, Clooney identified several of them. Saw them with his own eyes.
I certainly did.
Oh, you did, huh? Maybe you've got a reason of your own for saying that you identified them.
Oh, yeah? Well, I got a good reason right now to make mincemeat out of you, Remington.
Oh, so? Why? Guilty conscience?
Well, I'll guilty conscience you.
Clooney, no gunplay. Remington. Why, that's the fastest draw I've ever seen. How did you do it? You knocked Clooney's gun clean out of his hand.
Yeah, go on, Sherwood. Why don't you give him a medal? Well, I got a couple of other decorations to hang on him.
Working for the same company, Clooney. I hate to do this, but if you've got something on your conscience, maybe this will shake it out. I'm sure sorry about breaking up your office, Mr. Sherwood. And I guess this is the end of the line for us.
No, not at all. Now I'm doubly convinced you're the kind of men I want working for me. But I do think you're wasting your time when you suspect Clooney of having any ulterior motives.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong. But I certainly don't understand how he was able to make such positive identification of those men.
Well then, Remington, in that case, maybe you'd better find out. And if you do find out, you may have found the men who've been trying to put this railroad out of business.
There was only one thing of which I was certain. There was someone out to wreck the railroad. And even though it could have been Clooney, who as division boss would know about express shipments and things like that, I was dead certain in my own mind that it wasn't Pat McCarthy and his gang of track layers. But to be completely sure, Cherokee and I hightailed it back to McCarthy's shack, where we found no one home but Sharon.
Miss Sharon, I don't like calling a pretty girl, an Irish lass at that, a prevaricator. But I have a feeling that you know where your Uncle Pat went.
Well, guess there's no use trying to protect him. Uncle Pat went into town.
Into town? You mean into that cafe, don't you?
Chad, don't let Uncle Pat get into trouble. He really means so well.
I'm sure he means well, Sharon. But at the rate he's going, he'll have a lot of company, where even the streets are paved with good intentions. All right, come on, Cherokee. This should be one trip you'll enjoy. We're going back to town and into that saloon.
Fill that glass up again, Pat?
Fill it up, eh? You know something, Pharaoh? This reminds me of the night that I was in Dublin. It reminds me of why I left Dublin.
Why?
You see, I was a hod carrier over there, and I had a lot of trouble there. I lost all my money, and I came into a bar.
You did?
Yes, and the boss of the bar says to me, he says, have a drink. So I said, all right, I will, you know. We have a drink. So I decided I'd have a drink, and, well, I couldn't pay for it.
Ah.
So now, I don't want you to get me wrong. Then I joined the sailing vessel, see, and then I come to this country and work for the railroad.
Well, will you have that drink?
Well, thank you, Pharaoh, but I've got to tell you the truth. I haven't got the wherewithal to pay for it.
Well, don't let that worry you, Pat.
There you go.
You and the rest of the boys who work for that devil-dealing railroad, you're good with me until you get your next job.
Well, that's fine. I don't know when the next job is going to be, but if you don't mind, give me that drink. That's fine, Pharaoh. Fine.
Hey, Nibs.
Yeah, boys.
Now, you give McCarthy anything he wants, and that's how
Hey, Pharaoh. Here comes that lawyer who's been gumshoeing for the railroad.
Pour McCarthy a drink. I'll handle these two.
Okay.
Howdy, Remington. Buy you a drink, too?
Well, I don't mind if you
Thanks,
do.
Pharaoh. What are you doing here, Pat?
Oh, well, me? Well, you see, I came in here because I had some errands to do.
Come on, Pat. You're going home.
Just a minute. Nobody's coming into my place and ordering the customers out.
Come on, Pat.
Now, maybe if I had just one drink with Pat, then maybe he'd feel better about coming, Chad.
McCarthy's staying here, just as long as he wants to.
Fair enough. You ready to leave now, Pat?
Well, okay, Chad.
Yeah, you see, Pharaoh? He's ready to leave right now. All right, Pat, let's go.
What a waste of time to be in a place like this and then leave empty-handed. Whiskey all around and not a drop to drink.
Well, Pharaoh, now that Remington's dragged McCarthy out of here, how are you going to get the information on what express shipments the railroad's got coming through and when?
Suppose you leave the worrying to me, Nibs.
Yeah. If Remington and that rumhound keep sniffing around, they're going to find out for sure. You can't keep the railroad from believing it's the workmen and the workmen believing it's the railroad forever.
We don't have to. Forever. With what we got off the express cars the last 2 trips, plus we're going to get the next time, we can retire forever and live like kings.
Yeah, well, all I can say is I hope you're right, boss, because I got a feeling in my bones it spells trouble. Spells trouble with a capital T.
Uncle Pat, you've got to answer Chad's questions. He told you that Clooney claims to have identified us in that last railroad wreck and hold-up.
Sharon, you know we had nothing to do with it.
Maybe you didn't. Maybe it was Clooney. I don't know. But we've got to find out before the only station the railroad has left is marked Boot Hill.
Come on, Pat. As one Irishman to another, tell me. You've been hanging out at that saloon of Pharaoh's a lot, haven't you?
He certainly has. And where he got the money for it, I don't know.
Well, Pharaoh told me that I didn't have to pay him.
You didn't have to pay him in cash. Now, tell the truth, Pat. Hasn't Pharaoh been pumping you a lot, asking you questions about the railroad?
Well, well, sure, Chad. We talked about the railroad, naturally.
Uh-huh. And when you were just there, you told him what I told you this morning about that gold shipment that's coming through on the late afternoon fast express.
All I said was I didn't see how people with any sense could trust a broken-down railroad like that with $80,000 worth of gold.
Pat, without meaning to, you've done us all a favor. And I think before that express shipment reaches the junction, the railroad trouble in this part of the country is going to be cleaned up. Cleaned up for good. Pat,
Hey.
will you make those men of yours shut up? Here comes the train.
Chad, look. There's a big bunch of men on the other side of the gorge, all dressed up like railroad workmen.
Well, I'll be hamstrung. Looks like Clooney knew what he was talking about.
Why, those filthy sidewinders. No wonder the railroad company thought it was us.
All right, get your guns out, men.
All right, good.
As soon as they make for break for it, we're ending this once and for all. Okay, boys, now ride. And be careful with your shots. We want to take as many as we can alive.
Hey, Pharaoh, look. Here comes Clooney and a bunch of those railroad detectives.
Why, the...
Turn those horses, boys, and let's get out of here.
Pharaoh. Hey, we're cut off. Here comes Remington and his crowd, ears over elbows.
Off them horses, boys, and head for the rock. And this'll take care of you, Mr. Clooney.
I got his gun, Clooney. Now cover the rest of them while I get Pharaoh.
I still got this Derringer Remington.
Well, you better use it before I connect with this. Pat, lend Clooney a hand, because the reward money that railroad's going to pay you will more than make up for everything you've lost.
Oh, well, Remington, I'll forgive you all you did to me, the way you rounded up those crooks for us. Say, hey, Mr. Sherwood?
We certainly will, Clooney. And speaking on behalf of the railroad, we certainly made a good deal when we hired Remington and O'Bannon.
Oh, that reminds me. Where is Cherokee?
Well, after all he did and the thirst he developed, I gave him the money to go down and buy a bottle of whiskey.
Oh, well, now, Mr. Sherwood. Oh, that was mighty nice of him.
Yeah, except that Cherokee got so excited he dropped the bottle and it spilled all over the wooden floor.
Oh, that poor man. He's probably sick about it.
Well, he has gone to the doctor's. But he'll be all right as soon as the doctor's gotten all the splinters out of his tongue.
Frontier Town, starring Reed Hadley and featuring Wade Crosby, is a Bruce Ells production. Story and direction by Paul Franklin. Music written and played by Ivan Ditmars. Be sure to be with us again, same time next week, for another fine action-adventure story with your favorite young Western star, Reed Hadley. And now this is Bill Foreman telling you that Frontier Town comes to you from Hollywood. Frontier Town, the saga of the Roaring West. Frontier Town. El Paso, Cheyenne, Calgary, Tombstone. Frontier Town. Here is the adventurous story of the early West, the tamed and the untamed, from the Pecos to Powder River, Dodge City to Poker Flat. These are the towns they fought to live in and lived to fight for, teeming crucibles of pioneer freedom. Frontier Town!
Hello there, I'm Chad Remington, frontier lawyer. Now, don't go getting any ideas that being a frontier lawyer is anything like being a lawyer anyplace else, because it isn't. No, sir. Out on the brawling frontier, law business isn't much more than trouble business. Business which explodes with the suddenness of a single-action cold, and, as often as not, ends in sudden death. Only recently I was riding back to Dos Rios, the little town where I live and practice law, sided by the reformed medicine man who has become my sidekick and now operates the Dos Rios livery stable, Cherokee O'Bannon. The day was quiet, the sky limitless and blue overhead, and everything seemed at peace in the world.
Counselor? I say, Counselor! Chad, have you gone deaf or are you daydreaming again?
Huh? What was that again, Cherokee? Did you say something?
Did I say something? Of course I said something. Otherwise, why would you have answered me?
That's a good question. All right, Cherokee, why would I? Now, if you don't mind, just what was it that you said?
I didn't say anything.
Well, if you didn't say anything, why did I answer you?
No, that isn't what I mean. I said something, but it wasn't anything.
What have you been doing, Cherokee? Studying nights to be a lawyer? Any man who says something but doesn't say anything could soon be a Supreme Court judge.
My dear Mr. Remington, if you'd give me a chance to finish and to explain myself, perhaps you'd realize that I make a poor target for your buffoonery.
My apologies.
I simply spoke your name, hoping that when you replied, I could induce you to stop these horses long enough so that I could, well, wash some of this alkali dust out of my mouth.
If you'd wash your mouth out with water, not only would I stop, the whole world would stop. Oh, but since there's nothing around here to wash your mouth out with, why waste time talking about it?
Counselor, if you'll cast your eye on Exhibit A, viz., to wit, and as follows, you'll see that the scabbard on my saddle doesn't contain a carbine, but it does contain a pint of my former miracle medicine. Genuine Cherokee Indian rattlesnake oil.
Well, I'll be jiggered. That 154 proof alleged medicine instead of a .30 caliber rifle. What would happen if we got into trouble, huh?
Now, this bottle could do a lot more damage than a carbine, Counselor. Either wield it as a club or pour it down the throat of some poor, unsuspecting owl hoot. A match applied to it would make it burn with bright blue.
Hold it, Cherokee. If those shots mean anything, you may get a chance to find out whether that alcohol is any match for a lead-covered bullet.
Where did those shots come from? Over that hill?
Yes, apparently from where those two young homesteaders settled only a few weeks ago.
Homesteaders? Billy Blue Blazes, Chad. That might mean we're in for another range war.
It sure might, unless we can get there soon enough to do something about it. All right, come on, Cherokee. Put that bottle back in your saddle boot and let's make tracks. From a morning in which everything seemed to be all right in the world, everything changed. The sound of those rifle shots ripped apart the curtain of peace and, to our alarmed minds, opened up a panorama of death and destruction. Homesteaders never were welcome in country which had been used as open range. And although the few who had moved into Dos Rios recently had behaved themselves and turned the other cheek, the young Texan and his wife who had moved into this particular section were young and, well, just Texans. It took us a few moments to top the rise on the hill and race down toward the little homesteader's cabin. But even before we got there, we could see Bud Gafferty and his wife Donna standing near the fence they had put up, Winchesters in their hands. The barrels of their rifles were pointed directly at one of our old-time ranchers, Cy Davenport. There was trouble brewing, and it looked as if we might be arriving there too late.
What are you looking to do? Kill somebody?
I ain't looking to kill someone, but I haven't got any scruples against it.
No one's coming in and tearing down our fences. And if you're aiming on helping this old coot, the same goes for you two.
Cy, would you mind telling me what's going on here?
I sure don't mind telling you, Chad. These two young lunatics are out to make trouble, that's all.
If you don't clear off of my place, Davenport, your troubles will be all over soon.
Now, would someone mind telling me what this row's all about? All I know so far is that Mrs. Gafferty apparently is accusing Davenport here of ripping down her fences.
But as far as I can see, there are no fences ripped down.
Yes, and there ain't gonna be, come rain or high water.
But, Mrs. Gafferty, I have no intention of ripping down your fences. I told you that before. I just come out here to tell you that you built your fences over your line and onto my place.
Yeah, I suppose you're the judge of that.
All right, now wait a minute. If the fence is built over onto Davenport's property, it's a simple matter of fact. Something that can be proved.
And that's just what I wanted to do. Prove it to them. But a fine chance anyone's had of proving anything to this pair.
You call all that talk you were handing us proof?
What talk, Mrs. Gafferty?
Well, I offered to show them where the original government surveyors sunk the hub, marking the middle of the township when this land was originally laid out.
You call that proof? Anybody could dig up a hub and move it any place they wanted to. And I spent 2 days checking the lines and the corners before I put up the fence.
And I suppose you want me to take your word for it?
Now, wait a minute, Si. There's no sense in flying off the handle. Proof is proof. And this is the easiest thing I know of to prove. A licensed surveyor can determine your line in a day's time.
Oh, sure. I should rip out my fences because someone you're paying tells me that you're right.
Of all the benighted, bucolic bits of balderdash I ever heard.
What's that? You on the prod, too? Because if you are, I'll make short work.
God of heaven, you got a brain in your head?
Let go of this rifle up. Beat your brains out with it.
Bug-eyed fool. All right, here, Cherokee. You're needing a rifle in your saddle boot anyhow. Keep this one for a while.
Right, Counselor.
Si, this would be a good time for you to get back on your horse and go on home.
Well, they're not running me out of here.
Go on, man. Get out while the getting's good.
You'd better, Si. And since we have no axe to grind, after you leave, maybe we can talk to the Gaffertys and find some way that this thing can be settled.
Well, it's better to settle it with conversation than to have someone settled into a grave out in back of the Methodist church.
I'm afraid that out on the frontier, talk rarely has settled anything. But after Si Davenport had ridden off, and with both Bud and Donna Gafferty glaring at us, Cherokee and I did try to talk sense to them. Not that it did much good.
What in the name of all that's sacred do you want Davenport to do? He's offered to pay to have a new survey made.
That'll cost him at least $100.
And wouldn't that be cheap? $100 to get almost 30 acres of our land.
Well, you don't have to worry about it, Donna, because it ain't gonna happen.
Well, then, why don't you get your own surveyor?
I told you before, I spent 2 days laying out that land myself. It's right.
And I suppose you can't be wrong. Now, don't you see that if you were...
The only thing we can see, mister, is that we didn't ask you here. We don't want you here, and you'd better be riding. Well?
Chad, I think she means it.
We sure do mean it. And if you or Davenport or anyone else comes back here and tries to stick their noses in where they don't belong, they better come healed. 'Cause ain't nobody stealing even an inch of what's rightly ours.
Gafferty, you've been in Dos Rios long enough to know that we've got a marshal here who means what he says. And if you're going to try making your own laws, I'm afraid you'll find out that we've got some laws that we enforce and you'll end up in jail.
We'll see who's going to end up in jail. And if you don't get off of here in the next 30 seconds, you'll be lucky if you just end up in jail for trespassing.
Well, Chad, I've learned the hard way during the tribulations of my life that it doesn't pay to argue with a woman, not even if she's a lady.
You're right, Cherokee. So, since I don't want to end up in jail or anyplace else, let's get back on our horses and get into town and have a little talk with the marshal.
You don't seem to understand what Chad's driving at, Marshal.
Oh, the heck I don't, but I'll tell you this much. If them there Gaffertys try spraying any lead around this town, they're going to end up right here, in jail.
Marshal, I'm afraid Cherokee was right. You don't seem to get the point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to stop any shooting before it happens. Now, if the Gaffertys go for their guns, they'll just make more trouble. Don't you see that?
And how in the name of Billy be hanged do you figure to stop trouble when there ain't no trouble yet?
By the simple device of having you go out there and read the Gaffertys the riot act.
But Gafferty's no surveyor. He probably made a mistake when he lined up his corners. So undoubtedly, Si Davenport is right.
And if you, as marshal, can keep peace until the surveyor does go out there and check the land, that ought to give the Gaffertys sufficient time to cool off a little.
Well, if Gafferty built his fence where you just said he did, it's Crullers to Cartwheels that he's over on Davenport's land. Why, I know where that survey hub was sunk. Why, it's been there for years.
And if that's the case, all you have to do is go out there with us and... Marshal, that sounds like trouble down the street.
Well, come on, let's get down there.
Chad? Looks like Cy Davenport down there.
Yeah, it sure does. And that little fella slamming away at him is our Texas friend, Bud Gaffney.
Stand back there. Move aside, you men.
Gaffney, you bird-brained idiot. Cut it out.
I'll show him.
Come on now, cut it out.
Now, what's the meaning of this? What's going on?
I was just riding down the street when this young smart aleck come tearing in. He heels over leather and almost knocked me off my horse.
Go on. He saw me coming, deliberately turned his horse right in front of mine. I got a good mind to
Maybe
finish
you
him.
have got a good mind, Gaffney, but from what I've seen of it today, I'm starting to think you haven't got any mind at all.
Well, you're sure right about that, Chad. And this is the last straw. No sense in even trying to be nice to someone who don't appreciate it. So tomorrow morning, I'm getting a surveyor and going back out there.
You come walking onto my place and you won't be going back. Unless they carry you back.
Oh, is that so? Well, let me tell you something, Gaffney. If Cy Davenport comes out to your place with a surveyor, you better keep your mouth shut and leave your guns alone. Because if there's any talking back, you'll be doing it to me. And I'm backing up this badge with a gun that's already got a few notches on it.
We'll return to the second act of Open Range, our exciting frontier town adventure, in just a few moments. And now, Frontier Town.
Well, as I said before, a lot of trouble on the frontier ends abruptly, ends with sudden death. And from the way Bud Gaffney was acting, it wouldn't take a man with too many brains to guess that before his particular trouble was ironed out, someone else might die with his boots on. And yet not one of us who knew of the trouble he was having with Cy Davenport had any idea of how close death was, or how strange would be its results. Of course, it was none of my affair. Neither Gaffney or Davenport or even the marshal had hired me to thumb through the law books, one way or the other. And, sorry as I was for Gaffney getting off on the wrong foot, I decided to act sensibly for a change and keep out of it. So, next morning, true to his word, Cy Davenport gathered up a surveyor and the marshal and rode out to the Gaffney homestead. Gaffney and his wife saw them coming, and with their Winchesters lying easily across the top rail of their fence, just waited until they got close enough to be sure they wouldn't miss.
All right, Donna. Throw a shell in the chamber.
And I'm promising you it won't be wasted, Bud.
Marshal, unless you got a warrant for me, I'm warning you, stay on the other side of that fence.
I got no warrant, but I'm still coming on your place, if it is your place, with this surveyor. Come on, boys.
You're safe right where you are. But another 2 steps and you're on our land.
We'll find out whose land it is once the surveyor gets through checking the lines. And if it is your land, well, that'll be the end of that.
Of course it will. Now, why don't you folks act reasonable and let...
I'm glad I missed you, Jen, because I wasn't aiming at you. Nor was I aiming on throwing lead. I guess that having you here's made me a little bit nervous. And being nervous ain't good for a itchy finger.
And we both got itchy fingers, as far as you 3 are concerned.
All right, no use wasting any breath on a pair like you. I'm giving you 5 seconds to drop those rifles on this side of the fence. Cy?
Yep, Marshal.
I'll hand it this Jasper's rifle. You take the one away from his wife.
You don't remember what I told you about coming one step closer, do you?
Ma'am, now don't go to acting like a fool. Just do as the marshal says.
You stay away from me before I...
Why, you locoed little filly. Shooting side like that.
Don't, Marshal. Not really. Bad hurt.
Now you are under arrest, both of you. Here, Gaffney, drop that rifle of yours.
Blast you. You keep away from my husband. I mean it.
Bert, put down them surveying tools and cover me with your 45. All right, ma'am. Now I'm getting them rifles if I have to take them myself.
All right. Here's mine.
And now, ma'am...
You want mine? Come and get it.
Donna, we in trouble enough already.
So is the marshal, only he don't seem to know it. Well, Marshal, you gonna take my gun?
This is the first time I've ever had to fight with a woman. And I hope it's the last. Doggone it! Let go of that gun!
You big bull-flusher. Go on, break my arm if you want to, but you're never...
For the love of mercy! Gaffney! Gaffney, you see what happened? Gaffney, don't stare at me. She pushed that rifle barrel up to her neck and then she squeezed the trigger.
Marshal, if you kill my wife, you done your last killing. But I haven't. 'Cause just as sure as God made little green apples, I'm gonna blast you right off the face of this earth.
There was no question in my mind that if his wife's death hadn't been such a stunning blow to Bud Gaffney, that he would have pulled trigger and not stopped squeezing until the bright morning sunlight poured through the marshal's body. It was an awful thing, just as sudden and brutal death always is. But worst of all was the way poor Fred Bemis, the marshal, felt. When he rode back to town, stunned and shaken, he came right to my office.
Chad, I tell you, it was awful.
Well, awful or not, it wouldn't have happened if the girl hadn't been so cantankerous. And besides, my boy, it was in the line of duty.
Duty? Did the folks around here elect me to gun down women?
I'm glad you didn't say defenseless women, because as sorry as I am for Donna Gaffney from what you told us, a moment before that rifle barrel had been pointed right at your heart.
Ah, but Chad, I'm a grown man. I'm supposed to know better. I'm supposed to know better. You know what I am? I'm no better than a common, everyday murderer. That's what I am.
Now look, Fred, for your sake and for the sake of everybody in town, you've got to get hold of yourself.
Oh, I ought to go and string myself up, that's what.
Fine lot of good that'd do now. Even a school child knows that two wrongs never made a right.
Now, instead of worrying about yourself, Fred, you ought to go over and see how Cy Davenport's getting along.
Oh, Cy's all right. She just got him in the fleshy part of his side, but that poor girl is nothing ever going to do her any good now.
And nothing's going to do you any good unless you go home and take care of yourself. All right, go on, fella. You ride back to your place and get some rest. Cherokee and I'll be out to see you later in the day.
You're wasting your time trying to take care of me, Chad. You're wasting your time on a no-good, low-down murderer.
Billy Blue Blazes, Chad, that man's upset enough to do himself some harm.
I'm not so bothered about what harm the marshal might do himself as I am what harm that wild-eyed Texan might do to him, trying to square accounts for his wife.
You really think so, Chad?
I really think so much that we're going down to your stables, get us a pair of fast horses, and churn up the dust all the way from Dos Rios out to the Gaffney place.
Say, Chad, look. Isn't that someone riding away from Bud Gaffney's place now?
Where? I don't see any. By George, you're right. And if I'm not mistaken, that's Gaffney streaking for town.
Well, he's too far away to see from here, but I'll bet you a case of something fit to drink against a cup of well water right now that Mr. Gaffney has got blood in his eye, and he's out to get the marshal.
Fool. We can't let that happen. We just can't. Hey, Bud. Bud Gaffney.
Well, if he heard you, he certainly isn't letting on.
Gaffney! Gaffney, rein up!
Why, that blasted nincompoop! What's he shooting at us for?
No use wasting our breaths on him. There's only one thing to do, Cherokee. We've got to rake these ponies and see if we can't get to town before Gaffney does. Come on. With a good half-mile head start and being a lighter man than either Cherokee or I, Bud Gaffney had not too much trouble hitting the stand of spruce on the edge of his place before we could overtake him. Once he was sheltered by the trees, the only thing we could trail him by was the occasional echo of his horse's flying feet as he raced through some canyon and the little spirals of dust kicked up, plunging across an open space as he headed for town. We pounded along past Amethyst Rock, down the draw through Arroyo Blanco, and came up over the rise between Chimney Rock and Square Top, looking down into the distant town. But ahead of us, through the thick green meadow, there was no sign of Bud Gaffney. There was no sign of anything except the yellowing tops of the grass moving softly in the morning breeze.
By the beards of the prophets, Chad, he's either outrun us or disappeared.
Or, more than likely, backtracked, circled, and got behind us again.
You want to go back and find out?
No, don't dare take the chance. We've got to get to the marshal's place just as fast as we can.
Get up there, you! Get up!
There was nothing but an open meadow to cross, and it took Cherokee and me almost no time at all to get close to the marshal's cabin. Midway across the field, we heard a shot, coming from what appeared to be a little house ahead of us, and which served to lend wings to our horses' pounding hooves. There was no sign of Bud Gaffney, but we reached the cabin in short order and practically threw ourselves out of our saddles.
But I'll be hanged, Chad. That couldn't have come from here. Look there, the marshal's sitting at the kitchen table with his back to us.
Yep, there he is, big as life. If we heard a shot at all, it must have been from somewhere the other side of the canyon, and the echo made it seem that it came from here.
Well, we can send up a few prayers that we got here before Gaffney did. So let's go on inside and warn the marshal.
No, Cherokee, we're not going inside. The marshal's got enough on his mind already without more worries about our suspicions.
Well, then what are we going to do?
Well, since nobody knew the marshal had come home except us, probably Gaffney rode into town to the marshal's office. So while you stay here to make sure that he doesn't find the marshal, I'm going to head for town and see if I can't run across Gaffney myself.
You're going to leave me out here all alone?
I'm going to have to, Cherokee. And doggone it now, I'm depending on you. You keep your mouth shut and both eyes open. But Cherokee didn't keep his mouth shut and his eyes open. Tiring of waiting for me and with nothing untoward happening, Cherokee sheltered himself behind the little mud-roofed cellar and, closing his eyes, opened his mouth and took a few swallows out of the bottle he was still carrying in a saddle boot. Of course, it would happen just then. And while Cherokee was out of sight and out of action, Bud Gaffney saw his chance and, walking lightly, crossed from the corral to the cabin window. The marshal was still seated at the kitchen table, his broad back a perfect target for any gun, and in this case for Bud Gaffney's.
All right, you wife-murdering buzzard. And believe me, I'm not going to miss. Right between the shoulder blades. Why don't you fall down, you tin horn? Don't just sit there. Fall down, you dead! Fall out of that chair. I'm gonna blast you out if I have to.
You madman, you lunatic, give me that gun.
You bet I'll give you this gun. Here.
Now let's see how good you are with an empty gun.
Why, you
Chad, come on. Gaffney's murdered the marshal.
Gaffney, I've got some news for you.
Why don't you leave me alone? I killed him like I said I would. You got me locked up, I ain't squawking.
No, but you may squawk after this.
Remember you kept pumping lead into the marshal's back because he wouldn't fall out of the chair?
Yeah. What of it?
Now, we took the marshal's body over to the doctor's house. We just came from there.
The reason the marshal didn't fall out of the kitchen chair was because his body was cold. He'd blown his brains out 3 hours before you got there. So you see, Gaffney, you shot a man who was already dead.
Blown his brains out? Then you've got to let me go. I didn't kill him.
That's where you're wrong, Gaffney. Maybe you won't swing for this, but you'll certainly spend the rest of your life in jail mourning your wife when they convict you of attempted murder.
Frontier Town, starring Reed Hadley and featuring Wade Crosby, is a Bruce Ells production. Story and direction by Paul Franklin. Music written and played by Ivan Ditmars. Be sure to be with us again same time next week for another fine action-adventure story with your favorite young Western star, Reed Hadley. And now this is Bill Foreman to tell you that Frontier Town comes to you from Hollywood.